few years ago, I owned a home, had a career, and never thought I'd be leaving the US. I didn't leave because I hated it. I left because it wasn't working. Have you been hearing a lot recently about people leaving the US in record numbers? Maybe you've even considered it yourself, but never really thought through all the reasons. You've heard people talk about walkable cities, foreign investment, escaping US politics, or just finding a new identity. There are so many reasons we're witnessing the biggest American exodus in history. Let's talk about some of them. Like walkable cities. Have you ever lived in a walkable city? If you said yes, you're in the minority. Most people that live in the US have not. It's not very common. There's only a few places left that you can even really think about as being walkable, like New York City, for example. All over the world, on the other hand, they're a dime a dozen. You find walkable cities everywhere else. Kind of frustrating. And a lot of those places have a much lower cost of living than what you'll find in the US. And it's all because of cars. Cities in the US are made for cars, not people. If you live in the US, you have to own one. And there's so much attached to car ownership, like insurance and gas, parking. The average cost of car ownership in the US is $1,000 a month. It's not just expensive, there's other costs, there's health impacts. Your mental health suffers. Put simply, people are not made for cars, and when you spend a lot of time in one, it takes its toll on your body, on your mind. It really has an impact on you. Before I left, I used to watch content on YouTube constantly about living in a walkable city and what it would be like. And you know, since I've come here, I haven't really been doing that anymore because I don't feel the need. It's like I'm living the fantasy that I was dreaming about. It's amazing. Now that I've spent almost 7 months living without a car, I am sold. I'm never owning a car again. I won't. This is a priority for the rest of my life. Never again. But the real opportunity comes from a developing economy. Now, this is kind of tough to talk about because people tend to have strong opinions about investing. And remember, investing inherently comes with risks. But the bottom line is there's just more investment opportunity in a developing economy. It reminds me of an old joke. We'll go far because we have far to go. I have a friend I made here, Tony, from the channel Narrowgate and Cafe 1912, and he came here as a US expat, opened up a coffee shop, and it's been going really well. He's talked a lot about how the bureaucratic process here was relatively straightforward and inexpensive. Now, if he'd have tried doing that in the US, it would have taken months of bureaucratic back and forth stuff, paperwork and fees and licensing. And then by the time you got it open, it would just be put out of business by Starbucks anyway. It's just a lot harder to get a foothold in any industry in the US because there are so many companies that are so well established. You can't find an advantage anywhere. You know, in other foreign investment opportunities, you got real estate. There's a lot of countries around the world that will allow foreigners to purchase real estate. And sometimes it's even a path to residency, like here in Albania, for example. And often the taxes and fees associated with it are a lot lower than you'll find in the US too. Food. I think we can all agree that generally the quality of the food in the US is not ideal. I used to eat Chipotle every day. The funniest part about that to me is Chipotle is considered one of the healthier options. I felt a lot better when I was eating Chipotle every day as opposed to Taco Bell. That was way worse. You might ask yourself, why not just make healthier food? Well, fair question. But generally, you're so busy in the US that you don't have time. Either you're just working or you're exhausted from working, or you have some other thing that you have to deal with, and you just don't have the free time to cook the healthy food that you need. Used to, you could get fast food if you needed to find a quick meal, but now it's so expensive, it's not even a great option for most people. Not that it really was in the first place. And then you think about how other countries have higher food standards. You want to scare yourself, Google a list of banned foods in other countries across the world. You will not feel very good after you see that. You'll find things like chlorinated chicken banned in Europe, or a really popular green soda banned across the EU and Japan, or a popular American sports drink that's banned all over the world. These things are banned for a reason. They've been deemed unhealthy. They've been tested. I don't think it's a coincidence there's so many people that are unhealthy in the US. You are what you eat, and more often in the US, that's not food. It's food-like product. Here in Albania, it's farm to table. When I go and buy potatoes from the produce market, they're still covered in the dirt that they grew in. And personally, I think that's kind of cool. Hey, if you like this, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions or you have suggestions for stuff you'd like for me to cover on the channel. It really helps me understand what you guys would like to see more of. Let's be friends. Which leads me to my next topic. That's political tension. I'm not going to get too specific here, but I think that we can all agree that things are getting very tense. I heard an expression a long time ago that really resonated with me. Be the change that you want to see in the world. I still think about that expression a lot, and I love it. I try and embrace it. But the difference now is I don't think I'm really going to change the world. I've realized that I can take my perspective and my worldview with me, and I don't have to have an influence. It's a lot easier to just find a place that I like than to try and change the place that I am into something that it isn't. Relationships are being pushed to the limit. Things aren't resolving, they're only escalating. And I have felt so good since I left because I don't feel like I'm just constantly surrounded by the divisiveness. And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to this next one, but it had a bigger impact on me than I expected. That's the culture. One of the first things that I noticed when I got off the plane was just the numerous coffee bars everywhere. You see coffee bars on every corner, multiple coffee bars on every block. My experience with coffee was pretty limited. I enjoyed it, but it was just like brewing stuff at home. I thought I was fancy with a French press. And then I'd go to Starbucks like everybody. Now I am genuinely shocked at how much time I spend at a coffee bar. I was at the coffee bar for like 3 hours today. And I'm hanging out with friends. I'm helping people with problems, talking about stuff. I have so much fun. It's one of my favorite things that I do now. But that's just the culture here. I mean, there's so many coffee bars and they're always full of people because that's just what people do. They hang out and they go to coffee bars. You start looking at vacation customs around the world and you get really upset. You see things like 20 days, even 40 days, vacation days you're just given every year. In the US, you're lucky if you get sick days anymore. A lot of cultures around the world have like a siesta around lunchtime where they'll basically shut down their storefront for hours so the staff can go and enjoy a meal with their friends and family. If you're taking a 2-hour lunch break in the US, it's probably because you've got 2 hours between the shift of the 2 separate jobs that you have to maintain your cost of living. Rent mortgages are becoming untenable. There is no denying it. The water's rising, but the boats aren't. People are just drowning. In 2023, my wife and I got a letter from our mortgage company that said that our property taxes and our insurance on our mortgage were both increasing, which meant that our mortgage payment was going up $400 a month. And it was at that moment that I realized, even though we were purchasing something, we thought one of the points of doing that is to lock your payment in. It wasn't going to matter, that our payment was going to continue to fluctuate indefinitely because our property taxes and our insurance were going to change. The average home in the US right now is $410,000, and then the first time average home buyer is 40 years old. That's not right. Something is not working. Utilities are climbing. It seems like you need insurance on your insurance. Prices are going up everywhere. There's no end in sight. You add in the cost of a car and you're drowning before you even start to pay for your health care. Where to start? Every part of the healthcare system in the US is expensive. Everything from the treatment to the prescriptions to the insurance especially. And your coverage is tied to your employer, so it makes it terrifying to quit your job or move if you have another opportunity that you want to try, especially if you need some sort of ongoing treatment for something. And this often just leads to people avoiding seeking treatment altogether, which just ends up with overcrowded emergency rooms. And then the emergency care is way more expensive. And on top of that, if you do get sick or if you get hurt, you're treated like it's your fault, like it's a personal failure. Often you'll find very unaccommodating attitudes from employers when it comes to illness or injury. It's very common to see people working when they're sick because they have no choice. They're forced to by their employer, or they literally can't afford to take the time off because they need the income. My wife had a health issue a few years ago that required multiple surgeries, and even with good coverage, it costs us well over $10,000. And we continue to get bills for literally years after it was supposed to be resolved, where it would seem like a new expense would just pop up, or they would decide retroactively that something that the insurance was supposed to cover, they weren't going to cover anymore. So every several months, we would just get another bill for another few $100s, and it just went on like that. And a lot of these expenses, we had evidence in our policy that proved that we weren't supposed to be responsible for these expenses. My wife fought them for a long time, and she was able to successfully get some of them removed, but some of that stuff eventually we just quit fighting because it was exhausting. And we just paid them. It felt like a scam, honestly. When it was over, she was so exhausted from the whole process that she literally gathered up all the remaining documents, and we put them in the burn pit in our backyard, and she burned them to symbolize, being over with that process. All these healthcare workers are feeling all this pressure, and it affects their performance and their demeanor. They're often overworked and just checked out, which makes me think about the social fabric and your identity. You ever heard of that thing called the social contract? That's basically the agreement that we all have in a society that, we're going to do what we say we're going to do. It's like integrity. You're going to stop at stop signs. You're going to go to work. You're going to honor an agreement. If you offer help to me, then I can trust that you have my best interest at heart. It kind of seems like that's starting to just come apart in the US. Everyone's on defense right now, and some people are on the offense. People are becoming opportunistic, transactional. There doesn't feel like a very strong sense of community or camaraderie. These are the kinds of things you take for granted when you have, but then when it starts to fall apart, you really start to feel the ground shaking under your feet. Don't despair, because there are calmer, more tolerant places all over the world. And if you do leave, you just might start to experience that internal shift. My focus has completely zoomed in to the street that I live on, the block that I inhabit, the coffee shop that I go to, the friends that I've made that I talk to every day, the few grocery stores that I go to, the markets. I have the same corner store I buy water at every couple of days. I know the name of one of the people that works there because I see him so often. Feels like a real community here. Life feels smaller, it feels quieter, which might sound ironic because here I am making content about it on YouTube. But It's exactly what we were hoping for, and it really feels like a dream come true. We didn't want more, we wanted different. What was once called the land of opportunity is quickly becoming the most popular place to leave in 2026, and for good reason. Leaving isn't the answer for everybody, but hopefully this gives you some food for thought if it's something you've been thinking about. And if you like this and you want some more to chew on, hang around for a while and check that out.